Okay, well, thank you for taking a look at this video. I'm going to talk to you today about Cimitra and specifically the GroupWise practice for Cimitra. We're getting a lot of interest and traction in this realm. So pretty much here's the idea is Cimitra allows the IT administrators who have all the keys to the GroupWise system in this case to allow other people to make changes inside of GroupWise. So what we're doing is basically making it so that the sub administrators have this arm's length distance to the GroupWise system. They don't use GroupWise administration in any fashion, and they can only do whatever the administrator wants them to do. As we get into it, you'll understand that really what Cimitra is it's a user-friendly interface, and there's scripts on the back end or commands. And again, we'll demonstrate that for you. So here's some common use cases for Cimitra, administering GroupWise or eDirectory or various other systems, controlling processes. So you think of like in GroupWise, you've got agents and so forth. You might need to start and stop and so forth. And you can do that from within Cimitra. And there's several other things that people use Cimitra for. So really the purpose of Cimitra is to drive down costs and get things done faster. Also, what it can do is if you've given multiple people the ability to have access to GroupWise administration, we'll say, you can roll that back, and that increases security. And then also, they really don't have to have any expertise on GroupWise at all in order to use Cimitra and to administer your GroupWise system. So generally, you've got to have a customer who's large enough that they have multiple IT staff, people to actually help in administrating GroupWise, kind of like sub-administrators or help desk or tier 1, tier 2 folks. And you've got to have an organization that wants to kind of be more proactive at self-service and so forth, and automation. So here's how Cimitra works. First, you deploy a Cimitra server, okay, which is really just some Docker containers that that are implemented on, like, say, a SUSE box in your typical GroupWise deployment. And then what you do is you deploy Cimitra agents, not all over your network, but just right on a location where you have access to your GroupWise system in this case, okay? So you'd probably just park it on like a box that's already got a MTA on it, for example. And then you create users inside of Cimitra, and then you create finally what's called actions. And those actions really just buttons associated with commands that are associated with scripts that do things, calling the GroupWise API and so forth. So this is how you get started with Cimitra is you identify a use case. This is GroupWise in this case, and you create a script to automate a task. Guess what? We've already created those scripts. You then connect the script to Cimitra, and that task you can delegate to other people. And then they push a button and they're able to do things or fill in a form, and they're able to make modifications to users and so forth. We have today we're going to talk about GroupWise, but we have practices for eDirectory, Active Directory, Exchange, and Windows Print Server. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out here and just show you this is a Cimitra server that's sitting over in Florida in a data center, okay? And I'm going to log in as this admin level user and just show you what they've done here, how they've configured the system. Okay, so you remember in Cimitra, you have a server. So we logged into the server, and then you have what's called agents. The main agent we're going to be dealing with today is this agent that's deployed out on a SUSE box where a GroupWise system is implemented. And then we've got users. So today I'm going to log in as Adele and show you her experience, what she can do. We'll probably show you Sid, and we've got a GroupWise administrator and so forth. Okay, so finally, you then what create what's called actions. And these actions we just import in. And so I'm going to show you here what we're going to do is we're going to be able to create a user. Okay. First off, though, I want to just go ahead and click on run here and just kind of show you the experience hit here. And I'm going to contrast it with GroupWise. Basically, what I'm doing here is I'm going in and I'm saying, hey, show me all the users under this post office. Okay. So I'm going to take you over to a GroupWise, this same GroupWise system, and just show you the same thing. So basically, once you log in, you typically, if you're going to administrator users, you're going to click on users, and then you're going to find the user that you want to do something with, and then you're going to make changes to them, right? Or you can just go ahead and see information about that user. All right. So let's come back over here and just show you then we just went and we looked at users. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a little journey. I'm going to create a user. And the user is named Bill Witt. But I'm not going to be the administrator doing this. I'm going to log in as Adele, because that's the whole beauty of Cimitra is these little actions here I've shared with other people. So I'm going to go here to sharing, and you'll see there, there's Adele. All right. So we're going to log in as Adele. She's on the help desk. Someone said, hey, we need to create Bill Witt. So we're going to go ahead and log in as Adele. Okay, that's her user ID and password 123. And there's no harm here me telling you those passwords, because you really can't do anything beyond what we've given Adele to do. Now you're going to see this user onboarding. Okay, this was shared with me by Richard. Okay, and so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to create a user. Okay, so you notice Adele has very much the same experience, except for she doesn't have some controls up here, and she isn't able to go behind the scenes on this action. She can just run it. Okay, and so just using our syntax here, Bill Witt, and then we just have to give them a password, and so we'll just do that. And then I'm going to go ahead. You can see I can show the password or not, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on run. Now here's the magic. What happens is there's a Cimitra agent deployed out on a SUSE box, calls home every 5 seconds, says anything for me to do, and basically what happened is the server said, yeah, here's what I want you to do. I want you to run this script, and then I want you to run these parameters after it. And that went ahead and talked to the GroupWise API, and magic, it created the user Bill Witt. I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to show you, there's Bill Witt. All right. Now, we didn't fill in much information on Bill, so let's go ahead and do that action. So what I'm going to do is see this modify GroupWise user. Okay. I can list all the users, or I can just sit here and I can say, hey, let's go ahead and get the info on Bill Witt. Here's what I'm simulating. I'm doing the same thing that I just did here, is I'm going and I'm looking at their object, but again, at an arm's distance here, okay? So you'll notice I won't be able to delete Bill like I would be inside of a GroupWise, okay? So specifically, that functionality hasn't been given to Adele. Okay, so anyways, let's go back here and let's modify Bill Witt, and let's give Bill Witt a phone number, 801-555-1212. Let's do that. And then let's just give him a mobile phone number, okay? Okay, something like that, all right? And so we're gonna go ahead and click on run. And so Adele now is making a change to Bill Witt's object at an arm's distance. Now, I'm the administrator here, and so I can show this to you here. And so I'm going to go back into Bill Witt, and you're going to see those phone numbers that we just entered in. Okay, so magic. Okay, so now I think you're starting to see the power of Cimitra. All right, and there's just all of these other fields that you can allow your users to fill in. Now, you may not want them to change the fax number or the pager number. Maybe those aren't even valid in your system. So, guess what? You just go ahead and delete those fields. You don't have to present those to the user. I just did for really kind of for test purposes. So, okay, now let's imagine that Bill Witt, he got a he was a junior developer, but now he's been made director. Okay, in his division, and so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to modify B Witt, and I'm going to give him a title change. Okay, and again, just like the phone numbers, this just goes in and makes the changes to Bill Witt. All right, so that's kind of cool. Now, now that he's a director, though, he wants to change his name. Rather than Bill, he wants to have it be William Witt. Okay, so I'm going to say B Witt and William. Okay, and so that's what's going to happen is it's going to go, and again, magic of the GroupWise API, we're going to make a call and change Bill Witt's name to William Witt. So you can see that William Witt now. Okay, and then just not to beat a dead horse, but just you can see here, we're going to look at Bill Witt, and his first name is William. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Now, someone tried to hack into Bill's account, and so he got logged out of his account. And so we have to go in and we have to, sorry, he got locked out of his account. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, enable account. All right, and so I'm going to go ahead and do bwit and enable their account. And so there's several things that you can do in conjunction with a user's account, beyond just their attributes. But you can disable, you can change a password. You have a user's account that might be inactive. You might want to expire their account, and so forth. And so that's what that functionality allows you to do. And then finally, you can change passwords here. Okay, so I think you get the idea behind the functionality of being able to allow other people to make changes. But I'm going to show you another really neat idea. Okay, I'm going to log out. And so again, Adele was on the help desk, and she could do things, some pretty advanced things. But let's get into Sid. And Sid, okay, can do very little, but it's still very powerful. And this came from a customer environment. They said, you know what, now that we've implemented Cimitra, and they did this so that they could share with sub-administrators, but then they said, you know what, there's this administrative assistant. They sit at the door. They're familiar with when people's mobile phone numbers change. So why don't I allow that individual to go ahead and be able to make changes vis-a-vis Cimitra? So let's go ahead and just show you how that would work. Okay, so we logged in as Sid, and we're going to say, hey, let's just list all the users. Now he wants to change the mobile phone number for Bill Witt, but maybe Sid doesn't know what Bill Witt's user ID is. But then he goes, oh, okay, so this was the only bit of training that was needed for them to know how to do this. And so we can say, okay, bwit. Let's first do a get user info. I want to show you something kind of cool. You remember when we looked at Bill vis-a-vis Adele's account, we could see all the attributes about Bill and change a bunch of attributes. But guess what? Here we can only see and change the phone numbers associated with Bill Witt. Okay, or William Witt. Okay, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to modify this user. All right, and I'm going to change their mobile phone number is what I said. So we're going to go down here and we'll say 555-1313. Okay, you might remember before it was like 900 something. Okay, so there we go. Same process. And there we go. True micro administration, all right, that you can break out to people with absolutely no job function in IT, no expertise, and so forth. So pretty powerful. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log out, and I'm going to show you something here. There's this last user I want to show you. And what they've done is they've done the ability to start and stop processes. This came from a real world scenario. We had a customer who had a bunch of GroupWise and various other systems on Linux boxes. And when she'd go on vacation, the other person, this gentleman, he knew Windows, but he didn't know anything about Linux boxes. And so she'd have to take her laptop with her because he couldn't do, simple things on the GroupWise system or the other systems that were hosted on Linux. Okay. And so she made dozens of things like this. Okay. Let's go ahead and see if the MTA is running, for example. Okay. This is kind of a typical troubleshooting step that you might do when you're, tracking mail flow. Okay, great. The MTA is running. All right. And so, and then we can go, okay, yeah, and we could do that on the POA. All right. And so that's really cool. And so really what this is, if we take you behind the scenes, I'm going to show you what this command is. This is extremely simple. Here's the name. Here's that. Remember that there's that agent that we've got this deployed to, or to that box, right? And then look at that. That's probably very familiar for GroupWise administrators. It's just the RCGRPWise command, and then some other parameters. All right. And so that's as simple as it is to create a Cimitra action. In fact, I'm just going to show this to you here. I'm just going to create an action, and I'm just going to call it test here. And we're going to go ahead and say, and then the command is just going to be like ls/tmp. Okay, so nothing too complicated, but we're going to say create. Okay, so look at that. I just created this action. What does it do? Agent, when we click on run, remember the agent calls home every 5 seconds. Anything for me to do? Yes. ls/tmp, and that's what's inside of my tmp directory on that particular Linux box. Okay, so let's just take you back and show you another really cool thing. This is the ability to throw a little dialogue up in front of people to make sure that you really want them to do something. Okay, and so so if I've shared this, say with Adele, I may want to just kind of make sure Adele knows exactly what she's doing. And so she might go, oh yeah, maybe I ought not to restart the POA, that doesn't need to go on right now. So those are the kinds of things that you can do inside of Cimitra to affect your GroupWise system. I'm going to quickly look over my notes, make sure that I've gone over all of the crucial things, okay, so that you get a real sense of what this could do for you. And then I'll just show a couple other things really quickly. Oh yeah, I want to show you too the ability to take a user's account and set an expiration date for it. Okay. Oh no, I know what I'm going to do. Let's do this. This is kind of a cool idea. This is okay. Let's do that password. There we go. Okay, so you see user onboarding, and then look at this, GroupWise user offboarding. Okay, so this is kind of cool. What this is let's say that Bill Witt gets promoted, and turns out he gets, he gets an opportunity to hop over to another job in another totally different organization. Okay, so HR calls the help desk and says, hey, could you offboard Bill Witt? Now, a lot of times there's a lot of things that you need to do in conjunction with offboarding a user. But the very first thing you want to do is make sure no one can send them emails, and you don't want them to be in the address book. You want to also make sure that no one can log in as Bill. Okay. And then later on, you might do things like make sure his account's backed up, change proxy rights, make sure everything's archived into retain or whatever it be. And so, anyways, but I'm going to show you this. This is a really powerful feature where Cimitra is just combining multiple actions into one. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to do, we're going to say Bill Witt. Okay, and we're going to offboard Bill Witt. Let's see what happens. Okay. It's going to take those three actions I just talked about and basically just make the user disappear. Okay. And no one can access the account, right? So that just quickly cleans up everything. This was the tier one specialist who did this. And then later on, the tier three specialist is going to go in and find users that are in this state and go ahead and continue or complete the process. But now we've safely kind of disabled Bill. Okay, so let me show you just a couple other things because now we've given people the ability to do stuff inside of Cimitra and your GroupWise system. And let's make sure I got that password right. There we go. And, but you want to kind of peek over their shoulder. And so I'm going to say like, I'm going to say, well, let's do offboard. I think that was the name of, yeah, here we go. GroupWise offboarding. Okay, so we can see here that Adele offboarded a user. And we go, oh yeah, okay, Bill Witt was offboarded. Now I might take that information then and go into GroupWise when I get some time, say as an administrator, say it's on a Friday and nothing to do. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna kind of continue the process of deactivating Bill Witt's account. It's deactivated, but I mean like archiving things and so forth, okay? So anyways, this is really cool because you can sit there and you can audit all of the functions that are going on in your system. In fact, I can just do kind of a free form search, or I can do like a dated search or whatever. And remember that test that we made just a few minutes ago? There it is. Okay. Anyways, so auditing is really important. You can also schedule things to go on at some particular interval that you want. So like every day we've got this little host info going on a particular box. And so that's really just kind of like a, if I go into this action, okay, you see that that's how this is scheduled. It's using just like cron syntax. And if I wanted to know how to use the cron syntax, I just have to click on that help button and it'll show me, what the cron, there we go, schedule is. Okay, now couple other things. Okay, you've allowed people to be able to make changes inside of your system, but maybe you want to make sure that they don't make errors, maybe common errors. So let's take a, for instance, let's say this modify GroupWise user, I'm going to edit this. You remember that there's the ability to change phone numbers. You see that? Okay, so really behind the scenes, what this is we're going to just take you up the top again. Okay, here's the agent, Linux, we say the interpreter is a bash script. Again, this is all stuff that just got imported, the Cimitra practice, but this is really what it is. It's just a bash script. And then there's these various parameters that you're passing to the script. And so you remember the phone number, right? We'd want to make sure that the phone number, for example, doesn't allow letters. And so right here, this is what's called validating regex, okay? Whereas when I look at a user ID, we have a much broader set of, well, a broader set. We've got alpha characters that we can put in and numeric, so alphanumeric. Whereas down here, we can only put in numeric. So really powerful. You've given people the ability to do stuff, but you've also put in safety guardrails so that they can't fill in something incorrectly and cause harm or at least confusion inside of the system. All right. So another really important point. And The last thing that I want to emphasize is something that's really important, and that is this architecture of Cimitra is very, very unique when contrasted to other kind of DevOps or automation solutions. And this is what's unique. And I've talked about this, but I want to highlight this. This is the notion that the Cimitra agent calls home to the Cimitra server every 5 seconds. Now, what's really neat about that is your Cimitra server is at a DNS address. So you can park Cimitra agents all over the place and they just call home to a DNS address. So if your server and your agent aren't on the same network, you don't have to worry about VPN access or something like that because the agent just calls home. Think of a remote client that calls home to a DNS address for a POA. Kind of the same idea. The server doesn't have to get a hold of a remote or caching client. The client gets a hold of the server, and it's very much the same with Cimitra. The power of that is again, you don't have to implement VPN. You can park Cimitra agents all over the place. I've got a Cimitra agent sitting here in my basement. It's on a Windows 2019 server. Now this Cimitra server is in Florida, and there's absolutely no network connection from the server down to the agent. The agent's just calling home to a DNS address and saying anything for me to do. Very powerful, very scalable, and just wanted to point that out about Cimitra. So thank you so much for watching this demonstration. And if you've got questions, please talk to your distributor and reseller. Thank you.